Hi, and welcome to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy, and the purpose of Worth the War is preparing people for healthy love and relationship. In effect, rethinking love and relationship and sparing hearts and helping people to avoid abuse. If you think we can do a better job with love and relationship, you found the exact right channel. Today, I am really excited to share with you Dr. Diane Strakowski. She is the Back to Love Doctor on Instagram. She has a wonderful website that I encourage you to look at. She does something really amazing. She is a psychologist, so she has the credentials to be able to see things from a more learned and intelligent view than maybe someone that might just be stumbling onto the idea of love and relationship, but she's also real. So she takes that knowledge and she puts it into a format that we can actually take apart and digest. So I'm so excited to have you here. I'm thrilled. I want you to tell us a little bit about how you became the Back to Love Doctor.
Oh, Kimmy, thank you so much for having me. Yes. So I am a licensed psychologist in California. And Kimmy, I've been licensed for over 20 years as a psychologist. I did my undergrad in psychology. I have a master's degree, a doctorate degree. I did my postdoc training at Stanford. And I have worked with depression, anxiety, OCD, sleep disorders, epilepsy, you name it. And I've had the privilege to work on a lot of research-based, evidence-based clinical trials. But I'll tell you, in the last 10 years, really, I've gotten more in depth with relationships because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And I feel like myself, as my relationships have become first and foremost in my mind, and right, we think about who's in our life. And so I've focused to become more of a relationship expert. I'm also a couples therapist. So I help singles find love, and then I help couples deepen their love. In fact, sometimes I help people when they're single, and then I meet their partner and become their couples therapist too. So it's been an amazing journey for me to really help people have more success. And I love it. It's just been a great platform.
That's wonderful. So tell me, just if you can, share with us what you would want someone to know. If you were sitting next to them on an airplane, you had a short flight, what would you want them to know about what and correct me if I'm wrong, see as one of your major focuses, which is the idea of how we attach, how these relationships bear out?
Yeah. So Kimmy, I always knew about attachment theory, but it has been in the last few years that I've dug really deep into it because I think it's a wonderful explanation. So attachment theory in a nutshell says the way that we learn to attach with our parents as an infant and then in our young childhood life sets the tone or the pattern for how we're going to attach in our romantic relationships. It's not a treatment per se, but it's a theory to kind of observe who you are in relationship as a result of your childhood. And some people don't even have memories of their childhood and how they attached with their parent. But once you understand it, then you can also understand your partner too. And that there's less of a fight or a struggle. Because what I say is sometimes we use the golden rule, right? And like all we can see is ourselves from our own perspective. Well, this is what I would do. And when my partner doesn't do that, then I get frustrated. But we have to recognize that they also attached in a different way in their family. And we just want to move towards secure attachment. So regardless of how you started out, how can you improve your communication skills? How can you communicate with your partner or in dating to get what it is that you really want or need? And you might have unmet needs as a result of your parental relationship.
So when I think about that in terms of somebody who just tunes into a video and they're like, I seem to be creating a pattern here. I seem to be seeing a pattern. What would you, if someone came and sat down with you and just said, hey, I seem to be getting into the same situation with different faces. What would you suggest that they do?
Well, I have a whole more complicated 4-step model for my treatment. First, I identify what is the pattern. So there's 4 main patterns. One is secure, which is great. You had parents who were attentive and attuned, and you probably don't come to my therapy because you're good. Like you're good on your own, and you can either be relaxed with a partner or on your own. So you're a securely attached person. Now, that's not entirely true because you might think that love should find you and you might be a little bit lazy in the pursuit of love, like thinking, oh, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And maybe you've got to put yourself out there more. But the primary people that I treat, Kimmy, are either the anxiously attached people who I call nervous Nora or Nick, and the avoidant types of people that I call independent Isabel or Ian. I've created characters because I want to have somebody that you can relate to that's not so pathological.
Right.
The original terms were like anxious ambivalent, and you're really not ambivalent. You really want love, but you're anxious. And the anxious avoidant person isn't as avoidant as you think. They don't really want to lose their independence. And then the last one is what we call dismissive in the classic anxious attachment style, or fearful avoidant. And I call that person confused Connie or Connor. So I'm taking the language and I'm softening it, but then I help someone identify which of those 4 types they are. And then my treatment essentially works with their body, because our nervous system is wired. This is polyvagal theory. Mm-hmm. This is a neurological perspective that this is your body system responding. So you need to unlearn your nervous response and replace it with a calm body. Then step 2 is a story. You have a story about love. You have a story about your childhood. You have a story about relationships, and you might need to rework that story, do some inner child healing, reframe your future thoughts about relationships because the pattern's churning, right? Step 3 is my cognitions, my thoughts about a relationship. My thought is, you're being mean or cruel for not responding back to, I'm using myself as my own reference point. But maybe the person's just being them. You're taking it personally. And step 4 is transforming through action. Because I can change my mindset, but if I don't actually communicate with you differently and I don't act differently, I'm not really making change. So those are the 4 steps I work each person through, but in a slightly different way, depending on what your love style is.
Well, and that was going to be my next thought was, are we in some ways combinations of these in certain situations or?
No, Kimmy, it's a really common question I get all the time. Can I be a combination anxious and avoidant? And my answer is no. Okay. Because you have one family, and certainly you can have manifestations of anxiety and avoidance, and you could flip-flop, but you have to look at what was the primary theme in the family growing up. I'll use myself as an example. So my parents are both Polish immigrants, lots of anxiety. My father had trauma, literally was like family got sent to Siberia, in Poland, a lot of trauma. My father shut down. He's, this happened to him very young. He is more of an avoidant type, not very verbal, acts of service guy, loving in so many other ways. But my mother is very anxious. She's more the anxiously attached person. She was more the predominant theme in my family. So I therefore learned from my mother in many ways to be anxiously attached in relationships. And then I had a bunch of siblings, so there's not enough time or energy to meet everybody's needs. So you could say I would be a combination, but really I'm more anxious. And why I'm doing the work that I do, Kimmy, is that I went to 7 different therapists, 7 myself. I'm studying psychology. I'm going to, of course, go to therapy. And not a single person said to me, Diane, I think you have an anxious attachment style. And if I had known that and I could have reframed that and understood I have anxiety, and then I could start treating my anxiety, it would have saved me years of heartache and effort. And I just could have started improving instead of wondering what was wrong with me.